Hello, this is Average Joe Video here, and today we are unboxing the last of an era. That's right, we are unboxing a legend. So what exactly do I have under this blanket, and why am I making such a big deal? Stay tuned to find out. So, under this blanket happens to be one of the last brand new Honda self-propelled HRX model lawnmowers. Now you might be wondering, why am I saying one of the last? Because if you haven't heard already, Honda is discontinuing production of their lawnmower lineup, which means the only mowers that will be available to the public are those that remain in dealer inventory. Once those are gone, they are gone. So I managed to get this one actually from Lowe's. I don't typically buy power equipment from Lowe's, but in this particular case, I did. I had a store credit there. That's a long story, but I purchased this at Lowe's. I was able to get an additional $100 off. I used my store credit, so needless to say, I got a very good deal on it. My local dealer obviously couldn't compete with that. In fact, they were really cool about it. They recommended that I go ahead and purchase the mower from Lowe's, and certainly if I had any issues, to make sure I take it to them because they are a certified Honda repair facility. So what makes this model so significant? Why am I so pumped about it? The reason why I'm pumped about this Honda lawnmower is because it features the hydrostatic self-propelled transmission. So instead of the traditional transmission that's found on some of the other models, this has the hydrostatic unit. And if you're not familiar, the top two models in Honda's push mower lineup, which would obviously be the HRX series, feature the hydrostatic transmission. One of them is hydrostatic with a blade control. The other one is hydrostatic with the blade control and electric start. I opted not to buy the electric start only because I didn't feel it was necessary, and I didn't know what the availability would be for the electric start components down the line. So that's the only feature that this particular mower is missing. What are we talking about when we talk about the blade control? There is a separate lever that engages the blade, which means you can actually pause while you are mowing, and while the engine is still running, you can disengage the blade, and then you can clean up an obstacle or whatever would be in your way, and then you can re-engage the blade and continue to mow without having to restart the mower. So that's an awesome feature. Now, because this is brand new, I thought it'd be a great idea to record this unboxing. If you're wondering, yes, this box has been retaped. I saw a little bit of damage to the tape whenever I picked it up at Lowe's, so I went ahead and I opened the box just to verify that nothing appeared to be smashed or damaged, because I didn't want to haul it the whole way home only to find out that it needed to be returned. So let's go ahead, let's get started with the unboxing. And by the way, this is a great time. If you would please consider subscribing and smash that like button, I would greatly appreciate it. I do want to point out that Honda does a great job providing you with simple instructions to get going with this mower. So I'm going to be following those if you're wondering where I'm getting that information. I have a quick reference guide for setup instructions right here on the box. Okay, so the first step is to remove the cardboard inserts as well as the grass bag. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that now. Here we have the grass bag. Set that off to the side. I'm going to go ahead and remove the directions. The directions come here in this bag, as well as your Honda motor oil, so I'm gonna set that off to the side as well. Okay, now the directions recommend that you have a friend help you lift this out of the box, but I do not have anyone available at this point, so what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna slice the end of the box, and that way I can roll this out of there. Okay, I do want to point out that because I chose to roll the mower out of the box, you need to be aware that this grass bag frame is underneath the unit in the box. So obviously, if you have someone helping you and you're able to lift it out, then you could just simply lift this out of the bottom of the box when you're done. But just be aware of that so that you don't drag it along the concrete. Fortunately, I had the cardboard there, so I heard the metal there, but obviously it wasn't rubbing the actual concrete surface, or that would have scratched it up. But just be aware of that. Okay, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and remove the additional packing material. And this obviously has the next deck, so yes, this is actually a plastic. The deck has a lifetime warranty. Now that lifetime warranty, if you read the manual, it tells you that the lifetime warranty is not covering impact damage. So if your mower is launching a stone and it happens to be abrasive enough or crack the deck, it would not cover that, of course. It's just from normal use, but the deck does have a lifetime warranty. Now, one thing I do want to point out is you'll notice here it says engine has no oil. Add oil before starting the engine. So that's obviously extremely important. I'm not going to remove that tag until I've added oil. You never know if someone comes out here and they happen to distract me and I get distracted from doing this, then the next thing you know, I would hate to accidentally start the mower without any oil, because that would obviously be catastrophic. Okay, one last piece of packing material. Okay, now I did say one last piece of packing material, but you're going to notice that there is actually a protective film on here. It actually says remove protective film before use. Ironically, I can't tell you how many different YouTube videos that I have seen with the newer Honda motors where this protective film is still on there. Now I'm sure after repeated use that this is going to be even tougher to get off of there if it's in the sun, but we are going to remove that. You can see there's some glue on here because initially the glue was used to hold the box shut to keep the carton from opening. As I said, I'm the one that requested that the associate help me tape it back up so that I could get it home. I just wanted to do the initial inspection and check for damages. Okay, so as you can see, the protective film is actually only on the badging here, the Easy Start Auto Choke System and the GCV 200 that's marked on this sticker. That is really what the protective film is protecting. I thought it perhaps went further than that, but I understand why, because that's a very shiny sticker, so that probably keeps it from already being abrased in the packaging. Okay, the next step is to go ahead and pull up the handle, and we're going to make sure that obviously the knobs are going to lock in how they're supposed to. We're going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to rotate it. When these knobs are perpendicular, that is when they are not locked in, so I have the freedom to move this up and down as long as the gray knobs are perpendicular. And you want to make sure obviously that you're doing that on both sides. You don't want to have one of them locked in while the other one is not. So I'm going to actually figure out which setting works best for me. I'm going to start with the middle setting on each side and test that out. Okay, so at this point, I feel as though this is definitely not high enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this up, which means I'm going to be locking this handle into the bottom setting on those adjustments. So I'm going to go ahead and just pull out on this knob carefully and turn it so that it is obviously perpendicular once again. I'm going to repeat that process on the other side. And then I'm going to go ahead and lower this to the bottom hole and allow it to lock in. Get this side to lock in by simply turning it like so. Okay, so this handle position seems to be much better. So we're gonna go ahead and move to the next step. Who knows, when I actually start using this and mowing with it, I may find that I need to adjust this yet again. So let's go to the next step, which in this case is to unscrew the dipstick and to fill it with oil. Okay, so at this time, I'm gonna go ahead and unscrew the dipstick. Now you can see there's actually a little bit of oil residue on the dipstick, and that's because these engines are actually run at the factory, so be aware of that. Now the directions on the box state specifically that I'm supposed to empty the entire contents of this particular bottle of oil. So it says 12 ounces there. They're providing 10W30, and that's what I use in my other Honda lawnmower. My other one is not self-propelled. It's just a bagging and mulching unit, and it is an older model. It's not an HRX model. It's not as fancy. It's one of the older basic models. So I'm going to go ahead and empty this entire contents. I'm going to give it just a minute or two to settle, and then I'm still going to check it on the dipstick. So it's important that you do that. Obviously, you just want to make sure that there's not a low oil level for some reason, which at this point we assume would only happen if there was already a leak on the mower, which is very unlikely. The top of this bottle does have a foil seal. I just took that off just to make things a little bit quicker. Okay, so at this point, we're going to go ahead and check the oil level, and the way you do that is by inserting the dipstick into the fill hole. Do not screw it in. People make that mistake. And then you can pull it out of there. And as you can see here, if I flip it over to the other side, we are basically right at the full mark. So you want to make sure that you double check that. Obviously, I'm going to check the oil every time I use it, and I'm going to be monitoring it. I'm sure with it being new, who knows, it may drop a little bit, I'm not sure. But just be aware of that, make sure you're double checking it. Then of course we can go ahead and screw that back in. Okay, at this point it's now safe to remove the warning about the engine not having oil, because we do have oil in it. So I don't recommend you remove that until you've actually put oil in it, just because then if you would go to start it and you realize, oh, wait a minute, it doesn't have oil, then this is going to warn you of that. So make sure that you're careful with that as well. Okay, so the final step then, before we actually go ahead and start it up, is to actually build the frame for the grass bag. So really that's very basic. All we have to do is insert these bars into the corresponding holes. And this is obviously what your frame looks like. Naturally, this is how it's going to go onto the mower. These are going to be the hooks that hook on there. Okay, so then it's time to go ahead and put the bag on. Obviously, you want the rating facing up. Keep in mind, this is your handle, so you're going to be connecting underneath that. You have to have a handle to grab a hold of the bag. I'm just going to hook the first plastic portion up here on the top and just work my way around. And that should be it as far as assembling the grass bag to the frame. Now I do want to mention while I'm doing this that if you compare the capacity of the grass bag on the HRX models to the HRN, you will find that the HRX model actually holds more grass than the HRN model does. Okay, and then we'll just connect this last part here. Pretty basic. Plastic's a bit tough, but that's kind of expected. I wouldn't say tough as in, it's a cheap quality plastic. It's just very durable, which is what I would expect for it being a Honda. So here you have it. That's the grass bag. We're ready to go ahead and install that. Okay, so in order to install this, it's pretty basic. Obviously, this is the deflector that's going to push clippings down. If you just want to actually have it discharge, you're going to see here on the top, there's actually 2 grooves. That's where you're going to line up these 2 flat pieces. And all you have to do is lay that in there, let that top flap come back down like so, and you are ready to go ahead and bag. Now, I do want to mention one of the nicest features on this particular mower is you have this green knob that is controlling whether you are mulching or bagging. So if I want to bag everything, I can simply move this lever the whole way to the left, and that's obviously going to bag everything. If I wanted to mulch it, I could completely remove the bag, obviously, and go the whole way over here to the mulch position. Or let's just say I'd like to mulch 50% of it and bag 50%. I could put this in the middle. And that's going to be a good compromise so that you're not filling the bag up as quickly. Now, what if you want to just discharge through the back? You could move this over to the bag position, and then you could remove the bag altogether and it would use the rear discharge on the machine. So it's very convenient. It's a very easy way of keeping track of whether you want to bag or mulch. The other mower that I have simply has a bag and mulch switch, a lever basically. You don't have all of these adjustments in between. So Honda is one of the few mowers that I've seen that enables you to do this, where you can adjust bagging versus mulching. Okay, so there we have the HRX 217 in the hydrostatic model. I'm going to talk briefly about the controls, and then we're going to go ahead and dump gas in this and start it for the first time. Okay, so let's start with the 2 levers that are here on the handlebars on the left side. So this black lever is actually controlling the engine throttle. So essentially that's going to be the RPMs of the engine itself. This orange lever is where you're going to set the speed for the self-propelled mechanism. So that's why it says it's an infinitely variable speed, because you can adjust this wherever you would like. Okay, now let's take a look at these levers here on the handlebars. Obviously there are 2 levers. The one lever says clutch on it, and then the other lever I'm going to just move forward slightly, and if I zoom in here, you can see that it actually says blade control. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this particular mower has the ability to disengage the blade and leave the engine running. So let's just say I start the mower up. When I start the mower up initially, the blade is not running automatically. Obviously, it's not propelling forward or backward either, because the clutch lever is not engaged. But let's say that I need to drive the mower to a certain part of my yard before I actually start the mowing process. That's what this clutch lever is going to do. As long as I don't squeeze in this yellow button, when I move that blade control lever forward, the blade is not going to engage. So that's what makes it extremely convenient, because you don't have to keep restarting the mower. So at this point, it's time to add fuel and go ahead and start it up for the first time. You're going to see this unedited, so if it doesn't start on the first pull, you're going to see that as well. One last thing that we need to check, I almost forgot. We need to check to make sure that the gas valve is in the on position. So when this gray valve is across, then the gas is turned on. If we flip it up so that it's perpendicular, then the gas is turned off. So make sure that obviously you have it turned on before you fuel it up. I mean, even if you fuel it up and you have it off, just make sure that you have it turned on before you try to start it, is what I meant to say. And then if you look up here, if you're ever confused, Honda does provide a decal on there to remind you. So the decal on the side of the top cover shows you that when the lever is in the vertical position, the gas is off, and whenever it is in the horizontal position, the gas is on. So I'm going to leave that in the on position, and I'm going to fuel this up. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and fuel it up. I do want to point out that it specifically says you should only fill the tank to approximately 2 inches of the neck, where the filler neck as they call it, where you're actually pouring in the gasoline. So you want to make sure you're aware of that. Just so that you're aware also, They did make the filler neck actually much larger, so that does make it easier. I personally like to use a funnel anytime I'm filling my mowers with fuel because I have a tendency of spilling it. This particular funnel actually has a screen at the end of it. Again, not a big deal, but I like to use that kind of a funnel just to catch any debris. Also, be aware that I am using ethanol-free fuel, and I put fuel stabilizer in it just to avoid the ethanol issues and to prolong the life of the fuel. You can see there's a positive stop there, so once you move it up to slow, you feel the click. That way when we pull it, it should have throttle and it should start up. Okay, so unlike traditional lawnmowers, I don't have to hold in the safety mechanism because remember, the engine's going to start without the blades engaging. There's not going to be any blade engagement, and obviously the self-propelled is not going to be engaged. And I should say that you want to make sure that the wheels are set at the right height. That kind of goes without saying. I did double check them, but I'm going to make sure that they're the correct height. I'm going to look at my old mower and do that. But let's go ahead and let's attempt the first start. And you can hear how it's idling low. That's because I can move that black lever further forward. Okay, so that's a quick overview of how to set up a brand new Honda lawnmower. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Honda is going to discontinue manufacturing these mowers this year, so whatever's left in dealer inventory is what will be available. Dealers will be allowed to sell them beyond this year if they're still remaining in inventory, obviously. But my suspicion is that as time goes on, it's going to be harder and harder to get the models that people are looking for. So my recommendation would be, if you're interested in a Honda lawnmower, I definitely would pursue getting one as soon as possible so that you have the pick of whatever model that you would like. The other thing I want to mention, and not to start a debate about electric lawnmowers versus gas, because I realize that everybody's needs are different. One of the reasons why I spent the money on this Honda lawnmower is because of the reputation for quality, the serviceability, and basically the extended life that these mowers actually achieve. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I have an older Honda that is still running strong. All I've done is change the oil, air filter, spark plug, sharpen the blades, basic maintenance. So I was concerned that if I moved to an electric unit, that not only would I not get sufficient run time, but I was concerned about battery life in the long term. If you take, for example, the new Milwaukee mower that is released, keep in mind that that mower only has a 3-year warranty at the time of me filming this video. So most Milwaukee battery operated tools come with a 5-year warranty, but it seems as though Milwaukee is changing the warranty on battery operated power equipment and making that a lesser warranty and only covering it for 3 years. So this particular mower, because it is the HRX series, has a 5-year warranty. It's a bit longer than the HRN. Don't quote me on it. I believe the HRN is a 3-year warranty. So keep that in mind as well. But the reality of it is, for me to go purchase the Milwaukee mower, the combo kit, obviously they want you to purchase the batteries with it because it's a 36-volt system and it runs off of 2 18-volt batteries. For me to buy the combo kit, which is the mower, the 2 18-volt batteries, which I believe are 12 amp, so they're not cheap, and then also the dual bank charger, you're looking at almost $1,100. So I was able to get this at a couple $100 less with the discount I got on it as well. So keep in mind that, you know, the price point, they are comparable, but this warranty is not only longer, but I just have more faith in the design because I believe the longevity is going to be there. That's not to say that in the future maybe electric lawnmowers won't continue to improve. I'm sure they will. But this is the choice that I made at this time, and I'm hoping that that's going to at least get me to the point where when I do finally purchase an electric lawnmower, or battery operated one I should say, then it's going to be much better designs and hopefully the quality is there. So if you like this video, please smash the like button and be sure to subscribe.